All right, let's talk about something that is surprisingly common and, let's be honest, deeply frustrating. I'm talking about the neighbor who treats your yard like it's their own personal park. Now, it might seem like just a small annoyance, but as we're about to find out, the psychology behind why they do it is, well, it's pretty fascinating. Oh, you know this scene, don't you? You're just minding your own business, you look out the window, and there they are, strolling right across your lawn like it's a public sidewalk. And that first feeling you get, it's not calm curiosity, is it? Nope. It's usually this weird mix of confusion, irritation, and maybe just a little bit of disbelief. And that's really what we're going to dig into here. Why does this simple little act feel like such a personal attack? Well, the answer is because it often is personal. It's a decision, whether they're conscious of it or not, that actually reveals a whole lot about how that person sees the world, how they view boundaries, respect, and ultimately, your space. Okay, so let's start with what we might call the less malicious reasons, because this isn't always some deliberate act of disrespect. Sometimes it all kicks off with simple ignorance, or this kind of creepy sense of entitlement. This right here gets to the absolute core of the problem. People are seeing two totally different things. For you, the edge of your lawn is a clear, invisible line. It's your property. But for some people, maybe especially if they grew up where all the yards just sort of flowed into one another, an unfenced lawn just doesn't even register as a boundary. Their brain genuinely files it away under shared open space. And then there's the other reason, this really subtle form of entitlement. This is what happens when your yard is simply the easier path, right? Maybe their own yard is a muddy mess, or yours is just the perfect shortcut to the mailbox. The trespassing, in this case, isn't really born from malice. It's born from convenience. And how this happens is a pretty wild psychological process. It all starts with convenience. Then, when they cut across your lawn and nothing happens, their brain starts to justify it. The little voice in their head says, it's not a big deal. After they do it a few times with zero pushback, that behavior goes from being questionable to being completely acceptable in their mind. Okay, but what if it's not ignorance? What if it's not about convenience? This is where we get into the stuff that's a bit more unsettling. We're talking about passive disrespect, and sometimes even a quiet little play for dominance. So some trespassers are fully 100% aware that they're crossing a line. But here's the thing, they're making a calculated bet. They're betting on the fact that most of us are polite and will do almost anything to avoid a confrontation. They are literally counting on your discomfort to protect them from ever getting called out. And this is the absolute key. Your silence isn't just silence to them. In their mind, it's permission. Every single time they cross your lawn and you don't say anything, you are, from their perspective, silently agreeing to it. And that just reinforces their belief that, hey, this boundary isn't being enforced, so it doesn't need to be respected. And that leads us to the most confrontational reason of them all. Sometimes this whole behavior isn't about taking a shortcut. It's actually a form of quiet testing. It's a subtle little probe just to see what they can get away with, to find out where the real boundaries are, not just the ones on some property map. It's a really low-risk strategy for them if you think about it. If you do confront them, they can just play it off so easily. Oh, I am so sorry, Sparky just pulled me this way. The dog becomes this perfect, convenient excuse. But deep down, this isn't about saving 30 seconds on their walk. It's about establishing just a tiny little bit of control over your space. And this just perfectly sums up the ultimate psychological danger here. When this trespassing goes unchecked, it starts to erode the very idea of your ownership in the trespasser's mind. If they can just use your space freely without any resistance, a little part of them starts to believe that maybe, just maybe, that space doesn't truly belong to you. So, okay, understanding the why is one thing, but what in the world are you supposed to do about it? Let's pivot now from unpacking the problem to figuring out the most effective psychological solutions. You know, our gut instinct is to react emotionally. We feel disrespected, so we want to respond with that anger, with that frustration. But what we're finding is that the most effective solution is actually the complete opposite. It's all about responding with this cool, calm, simple clarity. And here's why that works so well. A calm, clear statement. I'm talking something as simple as, hey, could you please not walk your dog through our yard? It completely changes the dynamic. It yanks away their psychological safety net. Suddenly, the behavior doesn't feel harmless or consequence-free anymore. You've just made it feel risky again. And for most people, that's enough to make it stop. So if you've ever felt that spike of irritation, you're not overreacting. And now that we know the right way to think about responding, the final question is, what action do you actually take? No, really, think about this for a second. You're faced with this situation, and now you know all the psychology behind it. What's your next move? Because there are a few common paths people tend to consider. Do you go for that polite but direct confrontation? Maybe you try a physical boundary, like a little sign or a bit of fencing. Or do you do what so many of us do? Just ignore it, cross your fingers, and hope it goes away on its own, and just let that frustration quietly build up inside. Every single one of those options has its own psychological weight. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. For those of you who have been there, how did you handle it? And knowing what you know now about all this psychology, is there anything you would have done differently? It's just a fascinating look at these quiet little battles over the boundaries we all live with every single day.